Good morning. Good morning. I hope you have all enjoyed the panel and the introduction so far. I am Sophie Vanderbroek. I lead research labs for Xerox around the globe, and I'm especially happy today with the 20th anniversary of the Research Center here. And it's my great pleasure to introduce the 4 speakers this morning. We will start with Dr. Jackie O'Neill. Jackie, why don't you come up? Jackie is a very senior researcher here. She's a principal scientist, and her expertise is work practice or ethnography. She leads actually 4 the Xerox research labs around the globe, the work practice or the ethnographic competencies. She's a champion for that. So she works with people at the Palo Alto Research Center, in New York State, as well as in India to really build a strong competency. Jackie got her PhD in the UK. She has worked on many programs across many verticals, really studying the way people work so that our innovations can be useful, intuitive for people to know, leverage the people's skills and capabilities, and make a positive impact to the society as well as to the economy, or the triple win, as we heard this morning. But also something many of you might not know, Jackie is a black belt in kickboxing, so you better behave this morning. Anyway, Jackie, over to you to describe the workplace of the future.
Thank you, Sophie. So today I'm going to talk about designing the workplace of the future. And this is a topic that underlies much of our research in this research centre. So, what does the workplace of the future look like? Will it look like this? Or maybe this? Or perhaps even this? Whilst the idea of the virtual organisation has been in common use since the 1990s, most of us will still work here, or here, or even here. And on a normal day at least, we don't come to work in this, or, for the more ecologically minded amongst us, on this. However, recent technological advances have given second wind to the idea of the virtual organisation. And today I'm going to discuss 2 technology-driven visions of the future workplace. The first, that there'll be no human workplace, just intelligent machines doing our work for or instead of us. The second, that there'll be no single physical workplace, just free agents coming together as and when needed to complete projects. And I'll be doing this through an ethnographer's eyes. So, just what are these ethnographer's eyes, you might well ask? Well, ethnographers do observational studies of people as they go about their normal activity, at home, at work, at play. And we use these understandings, we try and get in-depth understandings of how these activities are constituted. And we use these understandings in a technology research setting to inspire and inform innovation. However, as researchers, we also have a task of envisioning different futures. However, these different futures can sometimes go somewhat awry when they're only driven by an understanding of the technology. As ethnographers in a research setting, we're ideally placed to critique these technophile visions of the future. And this is because we're immersed in the leading edge of computing, but at the same time, we're grounded by a deep understanding of human practice. So, without further ado, I go to the first vision I want to examine today, that there'll be no human workplace. So, the idea of machines that can emulate or even surpass man has been, well, it's as old as time. From the Greek myths, to automatons, to sci-fi, to chess-playing computers. Indeed, the advent of computing breathed new life into this vision, as it were. However, things haven't quite turned out as predicted. The grand artificial intelligence vision was to build a brain that could reason, an artificial brain that could reason like humans. It's never quite materialized. Expert systems are systems which take the knowledge of experts and make it usable by non-experts. In the 1980s, they were predicted to soon become cheaper and more efficient than real experts. It never quite came to pass. And now we have a new grand vision. The idea that virtual agents will revolutionize interactions from customer service to psychoanalysis. Now, virtual agents are typically speech or text-based conversational interfaces to knowledge bases. Are they the new face of intelligent computing? So, to take a little look at this vision, I want to look at a practical example. The idea that call centres will be transformed from rooms full of people to servers on the cloud hosting virtual agents. Now, this has a number of enablers, this vision. So we've got Watson, IBM's quiz-winning computer that can answer natural language queries. We have better conversational interfaces. And furthermore, call centres are crying out for improvement. Who in this room hasn't had at least one bad call centre experience? And this is important for the vision. Call centre work is typically characterised as being low skill. And this makes it easy, people think, for virtual agents to take over that work. However, in reality, ethnographic studies of a variety of call centre environments reveal the hidden skills that belie, the hidden human skills that belie that label, low skill. All these and more are work that call centre agents do that go beyond providing a simple information response to an information request. I'm just going to take a couple of examples today. So, working up the real issue. Callers rarely come with a full idea of exactly what their underlying problem is. And call centre operators have to work with them to really understand what the root is at the call. So, take this example from a healthcare insurance call centre. It seems like a very simple billing query. I'd like to query this month's bill. In reality, this was a really complex problem that stemmed from the lack of synchronicity between billing and payment cycles. This problem had actually arisen the previous year, and this call was coming in September the following year. The operator was able to solve it by working through all those months with them. So even standard queries can belie quite complex problems. A second aspect of the work is translation. Call centre operators have to translate customers' understanding and vocabulary into that of the organisation. And this isn't a one-size-fits-all. Different customers have different understandings and vocabulary. Take these two examples to a troubleshooting call centre. There's a problem with the zero graphic module, and caller 2, the damn machine doesn't work. Okay? In reality, these people needed quite different levels of help and support. I could go on all day. I'm an ethnographer after all, but we don't really have time. So, what does all this tell us? The assumption that virtual agents can take over from human operators is based on a gross oversimplification of call centre work, and I would add an overestimation of the capabilities of current technology. Of course, most companies could reduce call volume by providing better designed support resources, and conversational interfaces could surely play a part in that. However, it doesn't address the fundamental issue. Calls are embedded in a complex web of circumstance. They go far beyond fact. So, let's revisit the vision. The problem with the vision as it is it pitches man against machine, human against computer, without taking into account the fundamental difference in the qualities of the two. People are good at the 3 I's: interpretation, improvisation, and interaction. Machines are good at large-scale number crunching. A better approach, then, is to value these two different qualities and put them together to augment the human expertise with the power of machines. So this might include facilitating communication rather than restricting it with rigid workflows and scripts, reducing the barriers of distance by making aspects of the remote local, and using social networks to tap into the everyday experts everywhere. Which takes us nicely on to the second vision that I'd like to examine today, that there'll be no single physical workplace. So this is a more extreme version of the virtual organisation. It goes beyond the idea that people can work anytime, anywhere, and it adds the fact that you might not have a contractual relationship to any single organisation, thus you can work for anyone. Now, this vision's been enabled by better communication technologies and connectivity, which have led to the development of the crowdsourcing platforms. Now, crowdsourcing is the act of taking a task traditionally done in-house and outsourcing it to a generally large, undefined group of anonymous people in an open call. And then those people in the crowd choose which jobs they want to work on. At the moment, people are even suggesting that crowdsourcing might be the next outsourcing. So, as before, I would like to take a look at a practical example of this vision, and that's microtask crowdsourcing. Now, microtask crowdsourcing is where you take large numbers of low-skill tasks, which are difficult or impossible for computers to complete, and put them out to the masses. It's been known as artificial intelligence, and this is because it treats the workers as human processors. So, you will notice in the first vision, we used a human metaphor for computers. In this vision, we're using a computing metaphor, processors, for humans. What this means is, at the moment, you have companies with various contractual and socio-organizational relationships with their workers. When you put crowdsourcing platforms in, you basically replace those relationships with the workers with the crowdsourcing platform. Furthermore, because it uses this metaphor of human processors, in effect, the relationships between organization and worker have been designed out. In reality, of course, people are not computer processors. So ethnographic studies of both outsourced and crowdsourced workflows have shown that even where the work is very low skill, even where the pay is piece rate, even where the workers are anonymous, it's the relationship between organisation and workers which counts. So, to give you an example of what I mean, from a low-skill data entry outsourced workflow, we found the following. Pay alone is not enough to get the work done to a good quality and in time. Supervisors put in an awful lot of effort to make sure the workers reach their targets, and crucially, to make sure the workers understand the system as being fair. Unfortunately, crowdsourcing platforms take away these complex socio-organizational motivators, and they replace them solely with monetary ones, typically at lower pay. No wonder there are problems. So, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with crowdsourcing itself. The problem is how the crowdsourcing has been implemented to date, using this human processors metaphor. The human processors metaphor basically rides roughshod over the fundamentally human motivators which are needed to get work done. A more appropriate approach is to treat crowdsourcing as just any other labour market and build back in those working relationships, albeit looser. So, to sum up, when we're designing for the future, there's some simple lessons that come. It doesn't matter if we're going to be working here, or here, or even here. What matters is that we don't use computer metaphors for people. We don't use people metaphors for computers. Rather, we capitalize on and value their unique capabilities, and we put them together to create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. Thank you.